You think the worst thing is getting a call about your husband's accident at midnight. No. The worst thing is discovering the woman crying beside him. Isn't you? The police knocked at 12 a.m., saying my husband was injured and needed me immediately, but when I arrived at that hospital room, I wished I'd never stepped inside. Betrayal from a stranger hurts, but from the two people I loved and trusted most, standing together in that emergency room turned me into someone they never saw coming. My name is Elena Brooks, and until that night, I thought I knew exactly who I was, a 35-year-old case manager at North Point Community Services in Maple Ridge, Colorado, married to a man I'd loved for 12 years. I thought I knew my life, its rhythms and certainties. But certainty, I learned, is just an illusion we cling to before everything shatters. It was a Thursday night in late October, the kind where the wind rattles the windows and makes the house creak in all its familiar places. I'd gone to bed at 10:30 p.m., exhausted from a particularly difficult case at work, a family on the verge of losing their home. Mark hadn't come home yet, but that wasn't unusual. His consulting firm had been pushing hard for a new client, and late nights had become our normal. The knocking started at exactly 12:03 a.m. Not the tentative tap of a neighbor or the familiar rhythm of a friend. This was authoritative, insistent, the kind of knock that pulls you from sleep with your heart already racing. I fumbled for my robe. My mind cycling through possibilities. Mark forgot his keys again. Something happened to my mother. There's been a break-in somewhere, but deep in my gut, in that primal place where we store our darkest intuitions, I already knew this was different. The hallway felt longer than usual, each step on the cold hardwood floor echoing like a countdown. Through the frosted glass beside the door, I could see the unmistakable silhouette of a police uniform. My hand hesitated on the deadbolt. Mrs. Brooks. The officer was young, maybe 25, with the kind of earnest face that hadn't yet been hardened by years of delivering bad news. His partner, a woman with graying temples, stood slightly behind him, her expression more practiced, more careful. Yes. My voice came out steady, surprising me. I'm Officer Martinez, and this is Officer Walsh. May we come in? I stepped aside, noting how they removed their caps as they entered, a gesture of respect that made my stomach drop further. They didn't remove their caps for simple questions. There's been an incident involving your husband, Mark Brooks. Officer Martinez's words were measured, rehearsed. He's been injured in an altercation at the Riverside Bar on 10th Street. He's currently at St. Mary's Hospital receiving treatment. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the back of the couch. An altercation. How bad is it? His injuries aren't life-threatening, Officer Walsh interjected, her voice softer. A concussion, some lacerations, bruised ribs. But Mrs. Brooks, there's something else you should know before you go to the hospital. That pause, that terrible, loaded pause, stretched between us like a chasm. There was a woman with him, she continued. She was also injured in the incident. She's asking for you. Asking for me. The words felt foreign in my mouth. Who is she? The officers exchanged a glance that I would replay in my mind 1,000 times over the coming weeks. She identified herself as Natalie Harper. She said she's a friend of yours. Natalie. The name hit me like ice water. Natalie, who'd been my roommate junior year at Colorado State. Natalie, who'd been a bridesmaid at my wedding. Natalie, who came to our house for dinner just last month, laughing at Mark's terrible jokes while helping me clear the dishes. She was with Mark at a bar. My voice sounded disconnected, like it belonged to someone else. According to witnesses, yes. They were together when the altercation began with another patron. We're still investigating the details, but Officer Martinez shifted uncomfortably. We thought you should know the full situation before you arrive at the hospital. I moved on autopilot after that. Shoes, keys, wallet, phone. The officers offered to drive me, but I declined. I needed those 15 minutes alone in my car, needed the familiar feel of the steering wheel under my hands. The routine of turn signals and stop signs. The drive to St. Mary's was a blur of streetlights and questions. Why was Mark at a bar with Natalie? Why hadn't he told me the Riverside bar was nowhere near his office, nowhere near her apartment? It was tucked away on a side street, the kind of place you went when you didn't want to run into anyone you knew. As I pulled into the hospital parking garage, my phone buzzed. A text from Mark's phone, but the words were all wrong. "Elena, this is Natalie. Please come. I can explain everything." My hands stayed steady as I turned off the engine, but inside, something fundamental was shifting, hardening. That text, those 7 words, confirmed what the officer's careful glances had already told me. This wasn't just about a bar fight. Walking through those automatic doors into the antiseptic brightness of the emergency room, I was still Elena Brooks, wife, friend, believer in the good, but with each step toward whatever waited in that hospital room, I felt myself changing, preparing for a truth that would rewrite everything I thought I knew. The night was cold, but the chill spreading through my chest had nothing to do with October weather. The emergency room smelled of disinfectant and fear, a combination that would forever remind me of the moment my marriage ended. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in that particular shade of harsh white that makes people look either sick or guilty. As I walked past curtained cubicles, following the nurse's directions to Bay 7, I caught glimpses of other people's crises: a child with a broken arm, an elderly man on oxygen, a woman crying into her phone. None of them were about to discover what I was. I heard them before I saw them. Mark's low groan and then unmistakably Natalie's voice, soft and concerned. "Don't try to sit up, baby. Just rest." Baby. My hand froze on the curtain. Through the gap where the fabric didn't quite meet the wall, I could see them. Mark was propped up on the hospital bed, a bandage wrapped around his head, his lips split and swollen. His shirt was off, revealing purpling bruises across his ribs. And there was Natalie, sitting on the bed, not in the visitor's chair holding his hand. Her auburn hair was disheveled, her white blouse torn at the shoulder and stained with blood. She had a butterfly bandage on her cheek and her mascara had run, creating dark rivers down her face. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd been in a bar fight over someone else's husband. I pulled the curtain back slowly, deliberately, letting the metal rings scrape against the rod. They jumped apart like teenagers caught by parents. But the damage was done. I'd seen the intimacy, the casual possession in how she touched him, the way his fingers had been stroking her wrist. "Elena," Mark's voice cracked. His green eyes, the ones I'd fallen in love with in a coffee shop 13 years ago, were wide with what looked like fear. "Good. Elena, thank God you're here." Natalie started to stand, reaching for me like we were still friends, like she hadn't just been calling my husband baby. "It's been such a horrible night." "Don't." The word came out sharper than glass. She stopped mid-reach, her hand hovering awkwardly in the air before dropping to her side. I took in the scene methodically, cataloging details like I was documenting one of my cases at work. The way their injuries mirrored each other, both had defensive wounds on their hands. How her purse was on his bedside table, not the chair. The smear of her lipstick on his neck, barely visible beneath the edge of the bandage. His wedding ring, sitting on the tray table instead of on his finger where it belonged. "How long?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. "Elena, it's not." Mark started. "How long?" They looked at each other, a quick, guilty glance that told me everything. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was a relationship, with its own silent communications and shared secrets. 4 months, Natalie whispered, and I saw Mark close his eyes in defeat or relief. I couldn't tell which. 4 months. Summer barbecues where she'd helped me prepare potato salad. The weekend they'd both, separately, been too busy to come to my mother's birthday. The conference Mark attended in Denver that Natalie, coincidentally, had also been at for professional development, The fight, I said, still in that strange, detached voice. Let me guess. Someone recognized you. Someone who knew you were married. Mark's silence was confirmation enough. Actually, Natalie said, lifting her chin with something that looked horrifyingly like defiance. It was someone who knew me. From my yoga class. She said some things. Mark was defending me. Defending her. My husband got into a bar fight defending his mistress's honor. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. Elena, we need to talk about this, Mark said, trying to shift into his consultant voice, the one he used to manage difficult clients. Not here, not like this. You're upset. I'm upset. I took a step closer to the bed, and they both flinched. You're lying in a hospital bed because you got into a bar fight while cheating on me with my friend, and you think the problem is that I'm upset. It just happened, Natalie said, tears starting fresh down her cheeks. We didn't mean for it to. You didn't mean to. What, meet secretly for 4 months? Lie to my face every time you came to my house. Send me texts about how lucky I was to have such a devoted husband while you were sleeping with him. A nurse pulled back the curtain. Is everything okay here? We need to keep voices down. Everything's fine, I said, not breaking eye contact with the two people who'd just detonated my life. I was just leaving. Elena, please. Mark reached out, wincing as the movement pulled his injured ribs. Don't go. We need to. What you need, I said, backing toward the curtain, is to figure out which one of you is going to call your insurance company, because I won't be handling that anymore. Or anything else. I looked at Natalie one last time. 4 months ago was June. My birthday was in June. The weekend you helped him plan that surprise party, were you already sleeping with him then? Her sob was answer enough. I walked out of that cubicle with my head high and my hands steady. It wasn't until I reached my car in the parking garage, until I was safely locked inside with the engine running, that I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had just shattered. But I didn't cry. Instead, I sat there in the fluorescent-lit concrete cave, engine idling, and felt something else entirely. Rage. Cold, clarifying, purposeful rage. They thought they knew me. Thought they knew what quiet, helpful, reliable Elena would do, but they'd never seen this version of me, because this version had just been born in that hospital room, forged from humiliation and betrayal. I put the car in reverse, already planning. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove to the 24-hour diner on Highway 36, ordered black coffee, and waited. By 3:15 a.m., my phone had accumulated 37 missed calls and 19 text messages. I read none of them. At 4 a.m., Mark started calling my mother. At 4:30, Natalie tried my sister in Phoenix. I watched it all happen on my screen. A desperate digital paper trail of two people realizing their comfortable lie was collapsing. At 5 a.m., I drove home. Mark's car wasn't in the driveway, still at the bar, presumably. I packed methodically important documents, jewelry my grandmother left me, the laptop, enough clothes for a week. Then I checked into the Marriott downtown under my maiden name and finally, listened to the voicemails. Mark's voice, slurred with painkillers. Elena, please, come back. We need to talk. Natalie, crying. I'm so sorry, you don't understand. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Mark again, more desperate. Where are you? This is insane. Just answer the phone. By noon, they'd changed tactics. Mark had been discharged and was home. He sent a long text about how he was going to fix this, how we could try counseling, how he'd made a terrible mistake but loved me. Natalie sent a novel-length message about how she'd been going through a dark time, how she never meant to hurt me, how our friendship meant everything to her. I decided it was time to respond, but not how they expected. I drove back to the house at 2 p.m., knowing Mark would be there. His rental car was in the driveway. He must have had someone drive him to get it. I could see him through the living room window, pacing, phone in hand. The moment my car pulled up, he rushed to the door. Elena, Thank God. I was about to call the police. No need, I said, walking past him into the house. He smelled wrong like hospital and Natalie's perfume. I'm here to talk. Hope flickered across his bruised face. Yes, good. We can work through this. Sit down. Mark. Something in my tone made him comply immediately. He sank onto the couch, favoring his injured ribs. I remained standing, maintaining the power dynamic. First question, I said, pulling out my phone to record. Were you using protection? His face went pale. Elena, were you using protection with Natalie? It's a simple question. Yes, always. Good. That'll make the divorce proceedings less complicated. No need for STD testing documentation. Divorce Elena, please. Let's not jump to... Second question. The credit card charges at the Hilton Garden Inn. 14 charges over 4 months, always on Tuesday afternoons. Was that your regular time? He looked like he might be sick. How did you... I handle our finances. Mark, I just never thought I needed to audit them for infidelity. My mistake. Third question. Who else knows? No one, he said quickly. Too quickly. Try again. He slumped. James knows. From work. And Natalie told her sister, Sarah, who works at the same pediatric clinic as my cousin. Wonderful. Fourth question. Stop. He tried to stand, winced, sat back down. Stop treating this like one of your case files. I'm your husband. No, I said, my voice sharp as winter ice. You were my husband. Now you're just someone who lived in my house while fucking my friend. Fifth question. Why her? That one made him pause. He looked at his hands, at the pale line where his wedding ring should have been. I don't know. Wrong answer. Elena. Was it because she was easy, because she was already in our lives, so you didn't have to work for it? Or was it because you knew it would hurt me the most when I found out? I didn't think you'd find out. The honesty of it was breathtaking. I actually laughed a short, bitter sound that made him flinch. You didn't think I'd find out. You brought her to our bed. Yes, I can tell from the laundry, and you didn't think I'd find out. My phone buzzed. Natalie, texting. Is she with you? Is she okay? I held up the screen so Mark could see it. She's checking on me through you. Even now, she's reaching out to you about me. The narcissism is almost impressive. She cares about you. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't you dare defend her to me. Not in my house. Not after what you've done. I walked to the window, looking out at the yard where we'd planted tomatoes last spring. They were dead now, killed by an early frost we hadn't prepared for. Here's what's going to happen, I said, not turning around. You're going to text Natalie right now and tell her it's over. I'm going to watch you do it. Then you're going to pack your things and leave. You'll stay somewhere else until we can sort out the legal details. Elena, please. We have 12 years. We had 12 years. You ended that at some hotel on a Tuesday afternoon. I turned to face him, and whatever he saw in my expression made him stop talking. You want to know the really pathetic part? I asked. I would have forgiven almost anything else. Money troubles, career failures, even a moment of weakness with a stranger. But her, the one person who knew all my insecurities, all my fears, you gave her the ammunition to destroy me, and then you handed her the gun. It wasn't like that. Text her, now. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. I watched him type, "It's over. Don't contact me again." Send it. He did. The response was immediate, her calling him. He looked at me, questioning. Answer it! On speaker! Natalie's voice filled our living room. Mark. What do you mean is Elena there? Let me talk to her. It's over, Natalie, he said, his voice hollow. You don't mean that. We said we'd figure this out together. I took the phone from his hand. Hello, Natalie? Silence. Then, Elena. No, you don't get to speak. You get to listen. You're done. With him, with me, with any part of our lives. If you contact either of us again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. Every mutual friend, your employer, your family. I have 4 months of evidence, and I'm not afraid to use it. You wouldn't try me." I hung up and handed the phone back to Mark. "Pack," I said. "You have 1 hour?" "Where will I go?" "I imagine Natalie has a couch, or maybe you can get a discount rate at the Hilton Garden Inn. Tuesday afternoon, regular and all." I walked upstairs, leaving him sitting there among the ruins of our life. 1 hour later, I watched from the bedroom window as he loaded his car, moving stiffly, pathetically. He looked up once, seeing me there, and raised his hand in what might have been a wave or a plea. I closed the curtain. The war had begun, and unlike them, I knew exactly what kind of person I was about to become. Silence became my weapon of choice. For 2 weeks after Mark moved out, I responded to nothing. Not his daily texts begging for another chance. Not Natalie's emails swearing the affair was over. Not the calls from mutual friends trying to mediate. Not even my mother's worried voicemails asking what was happening. I became a ghost in my own life, visible but untouchable. The silence drove them insane. I knew because I was watching. Mark's location services were still shared with me, a detail he'd forgotten in his panic. I watched him ping-pong between a budget motel on Route 6, his office, and yes, Natalie's apartment complex. So much for it being over. Every Tuesday afternoon, like clockwork, his dot would appear at her building for exactly 2 hours. Old habits, apparently, died hard. Natalie's social media told another story. Her inspirational quotes about weathering storms and true love conquering all made me nauseous. But the comments were telling friends asking if she was okay. Her sister posting cryptic messages about karma. The secret was leaking out, drop by digital drop. I used those 2 weeks productively. First, I hired a lawyer, Patricia Steinberg, a shark in Armani who specialized in high-conflict divorces. She actually smiled when I showed her my evidence folder. "Adultery doesn't affect asset division in Colorado," she said, flipping through printed screenshots. "But this level of documentation, this affects negotiation leverage." Second, I pulled our financial records. Every receipt, every charge, every suspicious transaction. The Tuesday hotel charges were just the beginning. There were dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry purchases that never made it home, weekend business trips that coincided with Natalie's mysterious girls' weekends. 4 months, they'd said, but the paper trail went back 7. Third, I gathered intelligence. Mark's company laptop was still synced to our shared cloud. Sloppy. His browser history painted a picture apartment listings he'd browsed, divorce lawyer sites he'd visited, even a booking confirmation for a couple's resort in Mexico dated 3 weeks from now. With Natalie, presumably. The optimism was almost touching, but the most valuable discovery came from an unexpected source. Lisa Morrison, a colleague from North Point, called me on day 10 of my silence. "Elena, I'm not calling to pry," she said carefully, "but you should know that Natalie applied for a position here. She listed you as a reference." The audacity was breathtaking. My friend, my husband's mistress, now wanted to work at my office. When I asked, my first word to anyone in over a week, 3 months ago, HR flagged it because of your friendship. They wanted to avoid conflicts of interest. Lisa paused. "Elena, she wrote in her application that you two had discussed the position, that you encouraged her to apply." 3 months ago, when the affair was already in full swing, she'd been planning to infiltrate every aspect of my life. "Thank you for telling me," I said. And Lisa, she's not a friend, not anymore. Word traveled fast in our small professional community. By the next day, 3 more people had reached out with their own Natalie stories. The coworker whose boyfriend she'd flirted with at a conference. The friend whose wedding she'd nearly ruined with a drunken speech about settling. A pattern emerged of a woman who took what she wanted. Consequences be damned. On day 12, Mark broke. He showed up at the house at 11:45 p.m., pounding on the door I'd had rekeyed. Elena, I know you're in there. Please, just talk to me. I watched him from the bedroom window as he stood in the drizzling rain, looking pathetic. After 20 minutes, Mrs. Patterson from next door threatened to call the police. He left, but not before leaving a letter in the mailbox. I read it wearing gloves, not wanting his touch even secondhand. Elena, I'm losing my mind. The silence is killing me. I ended it with Natalie. I swear. I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but please, just let me know you're okay. I love you. I've always loved you. I just got lost. Please. I photographed the letter, then filed it with the others. Evidence. On day 14. Natalie cracked too. She didn't come to the house. She was smarter than that. Instead, she ambushed me in the Whole Foods parking lot at 7 p.m. Elena, please, just give me 5 minutes. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect makeup was smeared, her hair unwashed. Good. You have 2 minutes, I said, not moving from my car door. Starting now. I'm sorry, I'm so fucking sorry. I don't know what happened. It just... We connected over you, actually. Talking about you, how wonderful you are, and then suddenly, you connected over me. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You bonded over discussing me, and then decided to fuck my husband. That's your explanation. It wasn't supposed to happen. You texted him from my birthday party. I have the records. While I was blowing out candles, you were arranging to meet him. So, don't tell me it just happened. She started crying. Ugly sobs that might have moved me once. What do you want? Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I want you to disappear, I said simply. I want you to know that every mutual friend we have will know exactly who you are. I want you to realize that your sister Sarah will be getting a package of screenshots showing what kind of person you really are. I want you to understand that North Point Community Services has been informed about your character, making your application there dead in the water. Her face went white. You didn't. I did, and I'm not done. I got in my car, but before closing the door, I added, the Mexico trip. The one Mark booked for you two, I canceled it. The credit card company was very understanding about fraudulent charges. That was a surprise for me. I smiled coldly. No, Natalie, I have the emails. Subject line, our escape. You might want to work on your lying. You're not as good at it as you think. I drove away, leaving her standing in the rain-soaked parking lot. In my rearview mirror, I watched her sink to her knees beside her car. That night, I finally broke my complete silence. I sent one text to Mark. My lawyer will be in touch. His response was immediate. Please, Elena, don't do this. I didn't reply. The silence had done its work, breaking them down, making them sloppy, revealing even more of their deception. Now it was time for the next phase. I opened my laptop and began typing invitations. A dinner party, 3 weeks away. Celebrating new beginnings. The subject line read, I included both their families, our mutual friends, Mark's colleagues, even Natalie's sister. The guest list was specific, strategic. Every person who mattered to their reputations, their self-images, their carefully constructed lies. They wanted to end the silence. Fine, but they wouldn't like what came next. The sound of my fingers on the keyboard was rhythmic, methodical, like a countdown to destruction. Click, send, click, send, click, send. By midnight, I'd invited 43 people to witness the complete annihilation of Mark Brooks and Natalie Harper. They thought my silence was surrender. They were about to learn it had been preparation. The invitation was a masterpiece of manipulation. Celebrating new beginnings at our home, the home Mark had been locked out of on Saturday, November 23rd at 7 p.m. I'd written it warmly, personally, making it seem like an announcement of reconciliation. Dear friends and family, after a difficult period of reflection, Mark and I want to gather those we love most to share an important announcement about our future. Your presence would mean everything to us as we move forward. Love, Elena and Mark. The RSVPs poured in within hours. Mark's mother, thrilled that we were working things out. My sister, flying in from Phoenix. Colleagues, cousins, the couple who'd introduced us 13 years ago. Even Natalie's sister Sarah confirmed, adding a note about how relieved she was. Mark called me 17 times that first day. I finally answered on the 18th. What the hell is this dinner party? His voice was strained, desperate. Exactly what it says. A new beginning. Elena, we haven't even talked. We're talking now, aren't we? Saturday, November 23rd, 7 p.m. Be there, or I'll share my announcement without you. What announcement? You'll find out with everyone else. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Natalie called from a number I didn't recognize. Whatever you're planning, she started. Natalie, so glad you called. You're invited too, of course. Can't have a proper announcement without all the key players present. I'm not coming to your house. Oh, but you are, because if you don't, I'll send everyone at that party a detailed timeline of your affair, complete with receipts, photos, and those particularly graphic texts you sent Mark about what you wanted to do to him in our bed. Silence. Then, you're bluffing. Remember that purple lingerie set you bought at Victoria's Secret on September 15th? The one you charged to the credit card Mark and I share, I have the receipt. And the security footage from the store, thanks to a very helpful manager who was appalled when I explained the situation. Would you like me to send that to your father? This is blackmail. This is consequences. Saturday, 7 p.m. Wear something nice. The week leading up to the dinner was a symphony of preparation. I hired caterers, the same ones we'd used for our 10th anniversary party 2 years ago. I ordered flowers, arranged for valet parking, even hired a bartender. To anyone watching, it looked like a celebration. But I was building a stage. I created a presentation 43 slides of evidence, text messages, credit card statements, hotel receipts, screenshots of their social media interactions going back months before they claimed the affair started. The crescendo was a video from our home security system, date stamped from July, Natalie arriving at our house at 2:13 p.m. when I was at work, Mark greeting her at the door in his boxers. On Thursday before the dinner, I called Natalie with my masterstroke. I've decided to be civilized about this, I said, my voice honey-sweet. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss how we handle Saturday. Neutral ground. The coffee shop on Maple Street. Noon. She was suspicious, but agreed. She showed up looking haggard, defensive, ready for a fight. Instead, I was calm, almost friendly. I've been thinking, I said, stirring my latte. Maybe we can find a way through this that doesn't destroy everyone. Hope flickered in her eyes. Really? Really. I mean, the damage is done. Mark and I are getting divorced. That's what we'll announce Saturday. But maybe we can frame it as mutual, amicable. No one needs to know why. Yes, she breathed. Yes. That would be thank you. Elena. There's just one condition. Her body tensed. What? You both attend the dinner. You stand there while we make the announcement. You smile. You mingle. You pretend everything is fine. Can you do that? Yes. God. Yes. Thank you. I smiled. Wear the black dress. The one you wore to my birthday party. She flinched but nodded. Perfect. I wanted her wearing the dress from the night it all started. The symbolism would be delicious. Friday night. Mark called one last time. My lawyer says I shouldn't come. He said, your lawyer is smart. You're not. If you want any chance of this ending without total destruction, you'll be there. 7 p.m. Sharp. Wear the suit you wore to our wedding. Elena, what are you planning? Closure. Mark. We all need closure. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling. Pathetically appropriate. I spent the day at the spa, getting my hair done, my nails painted blood red. I chose my outfit carefully, the white dress I'd worn to our engagement party, fitted perfectly, showing off the 10 pounds I'd lost from stress. battle armor disguised as elegance. The caterers arrived at 4 p.m., the house filled with the smell of appetizers, the clink of glasses being arranged. I set up the living room with the television connected to my laptop, the presentation ready but hidden. At 6:30 p.m., I opened a bottle of the Chateau Margaux we'd been saving for our 20th anniversary. I poured a glass, toasted myself in the mirror. "To new beginnings," I whispered. The doorbell rang at 6:58 p.m. My mother, always early, always worried. "Darling, you look beautiful," she said, though her eyes were concerned. "Is everything really okay?" "Everything's perfect, Mom. You'll see." By 7:15, the house was full. Mark's parents clustered near the fireplace. My sister held court by the bar. Colleagues mingled with cousins. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Everyone wanting to believe in reconciliation. Mark arrived at 7:22, wearing the requested suit. It still fit perfectly, the navy bringing out his eyes. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with him. Then I remembered finding Natalie's earring in our bed, and the moment passed. "Elena," he looked like he might be sick. "Please. Smile, darling. Everyone's watching." Natalie slipped in at 7:31, wearing the black dress as instructed. She tried to blend into the crowd, but I'd made sure everyone knew she was coming. The awkward glances, the whispered speculation it was already beginning. At 8 p.m., I clinked my glass. The room fell silent. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice clear, confident. "Mark and I asked you here because you're the people who matter most to us. You've been part of our journey, our happiness, and now, our truth." Mark's face drained of color. Natalie took a step toward the door, but her sister Sarah blocked her path, confused. 13 years ago, many of you witnessed Mark and me exchange vows. You celebrated our love, supported our marriage, believed in our commitment. Tonight, I need you to witness something else. I picked up the remote, smiled at the room. Tonight, you'll witness exactly how that marriage ended. The first slide appeared on the television, a photo of Mark and me on our wedding day. "Let me tell you a story," I said, clicking to the next slide. "About trust, betrayal, and two people who thought they could destroy someone who knew them better than they knew themselves." Mark lunged for the remote. "Elena, don't—" "Sit down, Mark." My voice could have frozen hell. "Or would you prefer I skip straight to slide 37, the one with the credit card charge for the abortion clinic?" The room gasped. Natalie made a sound like a wounded animal. "Oh, yes, I'd found that too." The final piece, hidden in an old insurance statement. The procedure neither of them wanted me to know about. Mark collapsed into a chair. Natalie's sister grabbed her arm, holding her in place. "Now then," I said, smile never wavering. "Let's begin with June 15th, my 35th birthday. The night my husband and best friend decided I wasn't enough for either of them. The remote felt like power in my hand. The room held its breath. The show was about to begin. The second slide filled the screen, a screenshot of text messages between Mark and Natalie from my birthday party. Timestamp 9:47 p.m. while I was in the middle of thanking everyone for coming. Mark: "She looks beautiful tonight." Natalie: "Stop staring at her. People will notice." Mark: "Let them. I'm tired of pretending." Natalie: "2 more hours, then you're mine." My mother's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. No one moved to clean it. I apologize for the broken glass. "Mom," I said calmly, "but I think you'll understand why that particular exchange might be shocking. You see, while you were all toasting my health, these two had already made plans for later that evening." Click. The next slide, a receipt from the Hilton Garden Inn, checked in at 12:14 a.m. on June 16th. "Happy birthday to me," I said, my voice dripping acid. Mark's mother stood up. "This is inappropriate. Elena, whatever problems you have—" "Sit down, Margaret." I didn't even look at her. "You raised him. You should see what he became. Click. Their emails appeared, a chain titled About Elena. I read aloud, from Natalie. She's working late again tonight. Come over. From Mark. What if she calls, from Natalie? Then we don't answer. We'll say we were both asleep. She trusts us. She trusts us. I let those words hang in the air. Past tense now, obviously. Sarah Harper was gripping her sister's arm so tight. Natalie winced. Is this true? She hissed. Natalie couldn't speak. Her carefully applied makeup was streaming down her face. Click. The credit card statements appeared, highlighted charges creating a damning pattern. Let's talk mathematics, I said, walking closer to the screen. 43 hotel visits at $120 each. 17 dinners at restaurants I've never been to, averaging $90. 22 purchases at lingerie stores. Would anyone like to guess the total silence? $8,437. That's what my husband spent on his affair with my best friend. From our joint account. I was literally funding my own betrayal. Click. A photograph filled the screen, Mark and Natalie at a restaurant, her hand on his face, him smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. This was taken by a colleague who didn't know me, I explained. She posted it on Instagram with the caption, Love seeing happy couples, tagged the restaurant. The date August 3rd, the day I was in Denver, presenting at a conference about supporting families in crisis. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Ironic, isn't it? I was teaching people how to recognize warning signs while missing all of mine. My sister stood up. Elena, enough. You've made your point. Have I? Jessica, have I really? Because I don't think everyone understands yet. Click. The security footage from our home played. Natalie arriving. Mark greeting her. The timestamp clear 2:13 p.m. July 19th. I had food poisoning that day, I said conversationally. Went home sick at lunch, except I stopped for medicine first, by the time I got home at 3. Natalie's car was gone. Mark was in the shower. Our bedsheets were in the washing machine. Mark's father walked over to his son. We're leaving. No, David, you're not, I said. Not until you see the finale. Click. The abortion clinic receipt appeared. The room exploded. Natalie's wail cut through the chaos. Sarah released her sister's arm in disgust. Mark's mother sat down hard, her face gray. September 28th, I said, having to raise my voice. Paid for with the credit card Mark and I share. Listed as medical consultation on our statement. I called to dispute it, thinking it was fraud. Imagine my surprise when they confirmed Mr. Brooks had accompanied Ms. Harper to her appointment. Elena, please. Natalie stepped forward, but her own sister pushed her back. You want to speak? Natalie, fine. Tell everyone how you got pregnant by my husband. Tell them how you both decided to take care of it while I was at my mother's birthday weekend. The weekend you both claimed to be too busy to attend? Mark finally found his voice. This is cruel. Elena, this is beneath you. Beneath me. I turned on him, and something in my face made him step back. You want to talk about beneath? Let's talk about what you did in our bed, in our shower, on the couch where my mother is sitting right now. My mother jumped up as if burned. Click. The final slide. A simple document. Divorce papers, I announced. Already filed. Adultery might not affect asset division in Colorado, but it certainly affects negotiation. Mark will be keeping his car, his personal belongings, and his debt from funding this affair. I'll be keeping everything else. You can't, Mark started. I can, and I did. Your lawyer, the one you consulted but didn't hire, has already been contacted by mine. Oh, you didn't know I knew about that consultation, Mark. You used our shared Google Calendar to schedule it. The room was silent except for Natalie's sobbing. As for you, I turned to her. Your employer will be receiving a detailed report of your conduct. Using company time and resources to conduct an affair, those Tuesday afternoon client meetings were actually hotel visits. That's grounds for termination. You vindictive bitch, she spat. Yes, I agreed. I am And you created me. I set down the remote and picked up my wine glass, raising it to the room. To new beginnings, I said. Mark and Natalie, you're free to be together now. No more sneaking, no more lies. You can have each other completely. Of course, you'll have each other without jobs, without respect, without the trust of anyone in this room. But hey, at least you have love. Right. I took a sip of wine, savoring it. Now get out of my house, both of you, and if either of you ever contact me again, the rest of the evidence, oh yes, there's more goes public. Your workplace, Mark, your nursing board, Natalie, your church, your social media. Everyone will know exactly who you are. Mark stood on shaking legs. Elena, get out. They left together, Natalie stumbling in her heels, Mark supporting her, or maybe she was supporting him. It was hard to tell who was more destroyed. The room remained frozen after they left. Then my mother walked over and pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm proud of you, she whispered. One by one. The others approached, hugs from my family, nods of approval from colleagues. Mark's own parents stopped before leaving. We're sorry, his mother said quietly. We didn't raise him to be this way. No, I agreed. He chose to become this. Within an hour, everyone had gone. I stood in my empty house, surrounded by party food no one had eaten, and felt free. I walked to the kitchen and pulled out the champagne I'd hidden the one Mark and I had been saving for our 20th anniversary. The cork popped like a gunshot. I raised the bottle in a toast to the empty room. To Elena Brooks, I said, who refused to be anyone's fool. I drank straight from the bottle, laughing at the impropriety of it. Then I grabbed my phone and deleted every photo of Mark, of Natalie, of the life that no longer existed. Tomorrow, the real work of rebuilding would begin. But tonight was for celebrating the death of the woman who would have forgiven them. That woman was gone, and I was never bringing her back. The aftermath was swift and merciless. By Monday morning, the story had spread through Maple Ridge like wildfire. Sarah Harper had made sure of that, posting a scathing denouncement of her sister on Facebook that garnered 300 reactions within hours. Mark's colleagues whispered when he walked past. Natalie's nursing supervisor called her in for a meeting that lasted exactly 12 minutes the time it took to process her termination for ethics violations. But I wasn't done. Tuesday afternoon, I met with Patricia Steinberg to deliver the final blow. The divorce filing is straightforward, she said, reviewing my documents. But this leverage you've compiled, it's exceptional. I want everything specified in writing, I said. Every consequence of violation spelled out. She smiled, shark-like. Let's discuss terms. The terms were brutal. Mark would accept the divorce without contest. He would take his $40,000 in credit card debt, the true cost of his affair, once I'd traced everything. He would relinquish any claim to the house, my retirement accounts, our investments. In exchange, I wouldn't release the rest of the evidence, the videos from our home security system, the explicit photos they'd exchanged, the recording I'd made of Mark admitting to using marital assets to pay for Natalie's medical procedure. This is extortion, Mark said when Patricia presented the papers to his hastily hired attorney. This is negotiation, Patricia corrected. Your client has two options: sign and walk away with some dignity and tact, or fight and lose everything publicly. He signed. Wednesday brought Natalie to my door at 11 p.m., drunk and swaying. You ruined my life, she slurred, mascara streaking her cheeks. No, I said calmly, not opening the door more than the chain would allow. You ruined your life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. I loved him, she wailed. You don't understand, I loved him. You loved what he represented, I corrected. The stability, the comfort, the life I'd built that you wanted. But love doesn't sneak around. Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't hide in hotel rooms on Tuesday afternoons. What am I supposed to do now I lost my job, my friends, my family won't speak to me? Not my problem. Elena, please, we were friends once. We were never friends. Friends don't systematically plan to steal each other's husbands. Oh, did you think I didn't know I found your journal? Natalie, the one you left here after girls' night in May, before you claimed it started. Her face went white even through the alcohol flush. March 21st, I quoted from memory. Elena doesn't appreciate what she has. Mark deserves someone who understands him. April 2nd, the way he looked at me today, he wants this too. April 18th, I'm going to make him mine. You planned this. Every smile, every concerned friend moment, every offer to help, all calculated. That's not May 10th. She's so trusting. It's almost sad. She actually thinks I care about her problems. Should I continue? She stumbled backward, nearly falling down my porch steps. Here's what you're going to do, I said, my voice cold and final. You're going to leave Colorado. Tonight. Your sister already told me she'll buy you a bus ticket to wherever you want to go, as long as it's far from here. Take it. Because if you're still in town tomorrow, I release everything, including the photos from Mark's phone, the ones you definitely wouldn't want your nursing board in any state to see. You kept copies after. Of course I kept copies. I keep everything now. Lessons learned. She left that night. Her sister texted me a photo of her boarding a Greyhound to Portland at 3:15 a.m. Thursday was Mark's turn for a final reckoning. He'd texted asking to retrieve some things from the garage. I agreed, but only while I was present. He looked destroyed. Good. The bruises from the bar fight had faded to yellow-green, but the hollows under his eyes were new, darker. You didn't have to destroy her too, he said, loading boxes into his car. She destroyed herself the moment she pursued a married man. I just provided the evidence. I pursued her, he admitted quietly. Not the other way around. No, Mark, I read her journal. You might have made the first move, but she'd been setting the stage for months. You were both predators, just hunting different prey. He stopped loading, turned to face me. Did you ever love me? Really? I loved who I thought you were. But that person never existed, did he? He was just a character you played. Badly, as it turns out. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a choice. Hundreds of choices, actually. Every text, every lie, every Tuesday afternoon, each one a decision to betray me. What happens now? He asked, looking lost. Now you live with consequences. You move into that sad apartment you bookmarked, yes. I saw that too. You explain to every future partner why your marriage ended. You see reminders of what you threw away every time you drive past this house, every time someone mentions my name, every time Natalie calls you crying from Portland. How did you know she'd call? Because I know both of you better than you know yourselves. She'll call. You'll feel guilty. You'll send money you don't have. You'll resent each other within 6 months. She'll blame you for ruining her life. You'll blame her for seducing you. The passion will turn to poison. You'll realize that affair fog only works in shadows and daylight. You're just two selfish people who destroyed multiple lives for orgasms and ego validation. He flinched at my crudeness. That's the real tragedy. Mark, you didn't just lose me. You lost yourself. The version of you that I loved, that your parents raised, that had integrity, he's gone. And what's left? I gestured at him dismissively. A middle-aged cliché with debt and regret. I could change. I could prove. You could. But not for me. That door is welded shut. He loaded the last box, closed his trunk. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry you're facing consequences. Sorry your comfortable life is over. But sorry for hurting me. If you were capable of that empathy, we wouldn't be here. He drove away without another word. I watched until his taillights disappeared, then went inside and opened the windows. The house needed airing out, needed to be cleansed of the past. Friday morning. My phone rang at 8 sharp. Patricia Steinberg. It's done, she said. Signed, filed, sealed. The waiting period starts now. You'll be officially divorced in 91 days. Thank you. Elena, I've handled a lot of divorces. Most people either crumble or explode. You did neither. You performed surgery. Clean, precise, devastating. It was actually beautiful to watch. I learned something important, I said, looking at my reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman staring back was harder, sharper, but somehow more herself. When someone shows you who they really are through betrayal, through cruelty, through selfishness, you don't owe them protection from the consequences. You don't owe them silence or dignity or a soft landing. What do you owe them? The truth, publicly, loudly, with receipts. Patricia laughed. If you ever want a career change, call me. You'd make a terrifying lawyer. That evening, as I sat in my empty house with a glass of wine and Chinese takeout for one, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Mark's mom. I wanted you to know we're not taking his calls either. You deserved better. You always did. I didn't respond, but I saved the message. A small vindication, but satisfying nonetheless. The war was over. I'd won everything I could win and lost everything that was already gone. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding from scorched earth. But tonight, I sat in the ruins of my old life, wearing my wedding dress now splattered with red wine I'd intentionally spilled on it, and felt the fierce satisfaction of a woman who'd refused to be anyone's victim. They'd wanted to break me quietly, privately, gently. Instead, I broke them loudly, publicly, and completely, and I slept better than I had in months. Saturday morning arrived crisp and bright, the November sun cutting through the windows like blades of justice. The dinner party had been exactly 1 week ago, 7 days since I detonated the bomb that destroyed Mark Brooks and Natalie Harper in front of everyone who mattered to them. I stood in my kitchen, coffee in hand, surveying the damage and the victory. The house felt different now, lighter, cleaner, mine alone. Every trace of them had been purged. Mark's cologne no longer lingered in the bathroom. Natalie's forgotten earrings had been thrown in the trash along with every photo, every gift, every memory of our contaminated friendship. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Portland newspaper just posted about a nurse whose license is under review for ethical violations. No name, but we both know who it is. So Natalie's past had followed her after all. Good. Consequences shouldn't respect state lines. Another message, this one from a former mutual friend, saw Mark at the grocery store. He looked homeless. When I asked how he was, he just walked away. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. Just the clean emptiness of concluded business. At noon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the salon and had them cut my hair short, dye it darker. The woman in the mirror was unrecognizable from the trusting wife who'd rushed to the hospital that October night at midnight. This woman had edges, boundaries, teeth. "You look fierce," the stylist said. "I am," I replied simply. By 3 p.m., I was at my lawyer's office, signing papers to legally return to my maiden name, Elena Reeves. Brooks had been borrowed, never truly mine. Reeves was who I was before him, who I would be after him. Patricia handed me the final document. "The house deed transfer is complete. It's officially yours alone. And the restraining orders, approved. Neither can come within 500 feet of you, your home, or your workplace." Perfect. As I left her office, I passed a young woman crying in the waiting room, clutching divorce papers. Her husband sat across from her, texting someone, indifferent to her pain. I recognized the look in her eyes, that fresh shock of betrayal, the disbelief that someone you loved could be so cruel. I stopped, knelt beside her chair. "It gets better," I told her quietly. "Not easier, but better. You'll survive this, and when you come out the other side, you'll be titanium where you used to be flesh." She nodded, tears still falling but something shifting in her expression. Recognition of a fellow warrior. I drove home the long way, past the riverside bar where it all came crashing down. The parking lot was empty in the afternoon light, just another dingy establishment where people went to make mistakes. Through the window, I could see the exact booth where Mark and Natalie had been that night, where some stranger had recognized them and started the fight that ended everything. I should probably thank that stranger. They'd done me a favor. At home, I opened my laptop and deleted my social media accounts. Elena Brooks was dead. Elena Reeves didn't need to perform happiness for anyone's consumption. The people who mattered had my number. Everyone else could wonder. As sunset painted the sky orange and purple, I stood in my backyard with the box of remaining memories movie tickets, love letters, the unity candle from our wedding. I'd built a fire in the metal drum Mark had bought for camping trips we never took. One by one, I fed the items to the flames, each piece curled and blackened, smoke carrying away 13 years of lies. The wedding album went last, its leather cover resisting before finally surrendering to destruction. I watched until nothing remained but ash. My phone rang an unknown number with a Portland area code. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Elena, it's me." Natalie's voice, broken and slurred. "I just wanted you to know you won. Are you happy you won? I have nothing, no one. Mark won't even answer my calls. I hope you're satisfied." I deleted the message without emotion. Then I blocked the number. The last item for burning wasn't in the box. It was on my finger, my wedding ring, the 2-carat diamond Mark had saved for months to buy. I pulled it off, held it up to the dying light. Such a small thing to represent such a massive lie. I threw it into the ashes where it disappeared into the gray dust of everything else we'd built. As the fire died and darkness settled over Maple Ridge, I went inside my empty house, my sanctuary, my fortress, my fresh start. Tomorrow, I'd begin the actual work of rebuilding. Maybe I'd travel, take that promotion I'd turned down to support Mark's career, adopt the dog he'd been allergic to. The possibilities were endless when you stopped living for someone else's comfort. I poured a glass of wine, the good stuff I'd been saving, and raised it to the empty room. "To Elena Reeves," I said aloud, who rose from the ashes they tried to bury her in. The house was silent except for my own breathing, my own heartbeat, my own life continuing despite their best efforts to destroy it. I smiled sharp, satisfied, complete. They thought they'd broken me quietly in the dark. Instead, I'd broken them loudly in the light, and I'd do it again. The wine tasted like victory. The silence sounded like peace. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I was exactly where I needed to be. Alone, uncompromised, and absolutely free. Thank you so much for listening to this story of betrayal, revenge, and ultimately, self-reclamation. I hope Elena's journey resonated with you. Please comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I love connecting with listeners from around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories, and share your thoughts. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against betrayal? How did you find your strength? Your stories inspire me to keep sharing these narratives. Until next time, remember you're stronger than anyone who tries to break you.